In 1936, a young professor gave a series of lectures at Oxford University defending the classic poem Beowulf from hordes of critics. This radical professor said that Beowulf was a work of art, whose merit had been buried under an absolute mountain of scholarly analysis and interpretations. He later published his lectures as an article entitled Beowulf, the Monsters and the Critics. It made waves in the academic world. This young professor, of course, was John Tolkien, the author of The Lord of the Rings. Tolkien was a huge fan of Beowulf. This classic story is an old poem written between the 6th or 7th century, we're not sure, by an unknown bard. It was originally done as a verbal story that was told at taverns or at the corners of a town. It's one of the oldest known works written in the English language, originally written in Old English, a version of English that no longer exists. Yet so many critics had spoken out on Beowulf in the years since. The critics tend to make it all about Beowulf himself, or the people, the Geats or the Danes, seeing it more as a historical document. Tolkien criticized the critics for ignoring the artistic value of the poem itself, and deliberately downplaying the monsters and the more fantastical elements of the story. Tolkien was largely successful in changing the way people viewed Beowulf. 88 years later, the book guy is going to do the same thing with young adult fiction. Okay, so that's a little ambitious, but I stand by it, damn it. YA fiction is in a very similar position to Beowulf was in the 1930s. People have commentated on it so much that its reputation has become far more famous than its reality. Simply put, we believe the critics because they are louder. And we have forgotten what has made YA so beloved in the first place. But I'm here to tell you that YA fulfills an extremely important and vital role in the publishing industry and in the fantasy genre on a whole. What is YA? Originally coined in the 1960s, young adult fiction was designed to bridge the gap between children's and adult fiction, and it mostly consisted of stories about sex. It explored themes of sexual and gender identity and romantic relationships. The most common definition is YA is stories about teenagers and the problems that are commonly faced at that stage of life. So that includes sexuality and identity, but also includes deeper themes like questioning authority, independence, exploring their interests, and learning their limits. Yet perhaps the most literal definition of YA is simply YA is just fiction that is marketed at young adults. This is probably the most cynical definition, and it's one that is criticized a lot, but it's accurate. A book can have nothing to do with young adults and still be marketed as a young adult book if that's what publishers think will sell more copies. This happens all the time, and not just in books. For example, I love metal music. You can probably tell by the hair. Sometimes metal artists will release a soft song that's all acoustic, yet these songs are still classified as metal simply because a metal artist made it. YA is very similar to that. It's often less about the art and more about how to sell the artist. But here's the truth. A 2023 study showed that 51% of YA readers are adults. So this teenage genre is mostly read by adults. So does the marketing and the label even matter? Let's discuss that. See, there are 4 main reasons why YA gets criticized, and this is the first one, that the line between children, YA, and adult fiction is so blurred as to be almost meaningless. I think people can be quick to dismiss YA because of how blurred those lines are. They think, what's the point? It's just a marketing gimmick. But that's half the beauty of YA. It cannot be clearly defined, and that's a good thing. Stories shouldn't all be the same. This is more a reflection on the nature of art itself. You can't fit art into little boxes of genres and age groups, and you shouldn't try to. Art, in all its forms, is all about exploration, creativity, and pushing the boundaries of what reality can be. It's those damn suits making it a business that try to reshape art so it fits on a spreadsheet. So the fact that YA has blurred lines of definitions is more a reflection on bogus marketing. It doesn't automatically make the art itself better or worse. In fact, I think a lot of really good books suffer from mismarketing, like The Iron Giant or Treasure Planet. Great stories that were sabotaged by bad marketing. I'm still sore about that. The second and biggest criticism of YA is that it's childish and poorly written. This is the area I want to attack pretty intensely today. You see, every genre and every group of books will have their bad ones, including YA. But I think critics can't wait to find a bad YA book so that they can drag it through the mud and publicly humiliate it. It's confirmation confirmation bias. We see what we expect to see. Yes, poorly written YA books tend to have these problems. Overly simple world building, shallow characters, melodramatic prose, flimsy plot points, and so much relationship and romantic drama that it can become tedious. Yes, it's true. But well-written YA books do exist and have none of that. In fact, they have all the opposite things like deep characters, clever yet simple world building, evocative prose, strong plot points, and well-balanced romantic plot lines that blend with the main plotline very smoothly. So there is good and bad YA, absolutely. However, some critics cannot wait to find the bad YA, like sharks smelling blood in the water. And this is the third big criticism of YA: excessive gatekeeping. This isn't a problem with the fiction itself, but with the culture surrounding it. YA has so much gatekeeping, the term YA has a stink on it. Big YouTubers and big writers love to bash on the latest YA trend. They often start by saying, "Oh, it's okay if you like YA, this is just my personal opinion," and then bash on YA for the next 20 minutes. It's a lot like saying, "No offense, but," and then saying something you know is offensive. I'm not racist, but, come on, if you're saying that, you know what you're doing. Acknowledging it doesn't make it any better. I think most people don't realize when they're gatekeeping. They genuinely believe that they are exposing the bad books and helping people find the good ones. But here's an inconvenient truth. Sometimes people don't care if the book is poorly written. They're not bothered by it being a bad book. They just enjoy it. You see, this is the fourth reason why YA is criticized. It's popular. And this is what triggers the critics the most. They hate that it sells well, they hate that everyone reads it, and that these books get movie deals and huge publicity campaigns. And that can also tie into the confirmation bias. Critics expect these books to be poorly written because they're popular. Let's talk about that.
Hey, before we talk about books and fame, there is a fifth criticism of YA, which I've only just thought of and should mention because it's a big one. YA books are sometimes too similar. So publishers often look for YA books that follow the same structure or have the same tropes, are a bit predictable. They have to fit the trend or the most recent mold. And unfortunately, many YA authors sort of get punished and pushed to the side if they don't fit those molds. And YA can be a genre that discourages experimentation. And honestly, I don't really have a rebuttal for this criticism. This is a legitimate problem. Stories shouldn't have to fit structure in order to sell. Stories should be able to break structure from time to time if it suits that story. So making YA books similar because they sell better can be a real downside. Though again, that is more of a problem with the industry and with publishers than the writers itself, and we shouldn't attack the writers for it. But it is definitely an issue. Now, let's talk about books and fame.
People love to judge if a story deserves its level of fame, and it's an exercise in futility, because we can never guarantee what will and won't become famous. Publishers try every day to make each book famous and sell very well. There are brilliant books that never become famous, and there are famous books that are terrible. We cannot control that, but often we try to. And I think at the heart, that's what critics are trying to do, make the right books famous. Here's an example. I think Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderlings is one of the most well-written stories I've ever read. It sold approximately 8 million copies. By comparison, Sarah J. Maas's Throne of Glass is a bit contentious. Sometimes people debate its quality, and I would definitely say it's not on the same level of Realm of the Elderlings, but it has sold 12 million copies. Keep in mind, there are 8 Throne of Glass books and 16 Realm of the Elderlings books, so twice as many. And Throne of Glass has not been around as long, which means it sold more copies faster. Should I get mad and bash on Sarah J. Maas because I don't think she deserves her success as much as Robin Hobb does? No, of course not. Because it wouldn't achieve anything. And this is where critics try to gatekeep what gets famous and what doesn't. Here's the truth. It doesn't matter what is more popular. Fame is random. There's no logic to it, and so for that reason, fame is not something we should ever put a lot of stock in. It doesn't matter which books get famous and which doesn't. What does matter is if the book gets people reading. I went down a long rabbit hole trying to find statistics on how often adults read books. And I couldn't find anything conclusive. Simply put, these statistics don't exactly exist. There are many surveys about what type of books people are reading, or surveys asking if adults read books framed as a yes or no question. But many of these surveys are run on book websites, which will naturally attract more people who are inclined to read. So the data here is very skewed. According to the Words Rated website, the average American reads just 5 books a year. But again, this is a website where readers go to, so it's likely that the average American reads a lot less than 5 books a year. I couldn't do a survey on my channel, for example, because it's a book channel. I did find one survey that had very low numbers on readership, but it turns out it's because that particular group refused to acknowledge audiobooks as real reading. Which is a rant for another day. The only accurate statistics are on literacy. Approximately 21% of Americans are fully illiterate and cannot read or write at all. The average American reads at an 8th grade level, and 44% of American adults have a reading level which is below what is considered a basic level of competency. Why am I saying all this? Because if you're reading more than 5 books a year, you're doing pretty well. It's a big deal to get people reading at all. And this is what critics don't understand. Critics love to say, this is a good book you should enjoy, this is a bad book you're not allowed to enjoy. And they think that it's going to make the right books popular and stop the wrong books getting famous. It will redirect readers to the good stuff. Instead, the only thing gatekeeping achieves is to stop people from reading altogether. All forms of art have the creators, the consumers, and the critics existing on a spectrum. The truth is we need all three of these working in perfect harmony to create an environment where art can flourish. Critics are an essential part of art. It's how creators get feedback to improve their creations. It's how consumers get information on how to find what they're looking for. A good critic is like a librarian who will guide you to the right section. It's also natural for humans to critique art. That's how we engage with it for many of us. So when people say, don't listen to the critics, okay, so they're going way too far to the other extreme. Critics do have an important role to play, but critics go too far when they try to make everyone agree with them. Critics need to give their opinion and then sort of back off and let people think for themselves, instead of pushing so hard for uniformity on ideas. It's no one's role to gatekeep art. And art is by its nature subjective. To put it bluntly, critics need to let go of their ego a little bit, let go of their personal insecurity, and accept that people will have different reactions to them regarding art. You cannot make people agree with you. I would love to see more people on BookTube and BookTok and on Goodreads being more supportive and welcoming to people at different levels of reading. Think of it like a gym. You want a healthy gym culture where all people of all fitness levels are just trying to do better. You don't want a gym where all the guys with 8-packs love to body shame the new guy who's struggling with obesity, who's just trying to start a new chapter in his life. You want all these chads to offer all the support and guidance they can. It's the same for reading. YA fiction is an essential part of reading culture. It gets young people reading and will turn them into adults who keep reading. YA is ideal for people who haven't read in years and want to start a new reading habit. It is a gateway to a new life of regular reading and consistent intellectual growth and emotional growth. Yet it troubles me when an inexperienced reader picks up a young adult book and reads their first fantasy book, only for someone highly respected in the book community to say, you're wrong for liking that book. YA is a genre for people who want to explore the world and explore themselves and who they are. So how dare any of us attack someone in such a delicate position? In short, just let people enjoy things. So if you want to read YA, you have my fullest support. And if anyone picks on you for reading YA, come tell me. I'll sort them out for you. One last thing I want to say, and this is a bit of a joke just so you know, but I want to show my qualifications. First of all, this is my university degree, where I studied a fine arts degree with a major in creative and professional writing. It doesn't say it on the sheet of paper, but I also have a minor in the studies of literature. So I'm well educated, right? I also have long and beautiful hair, which means I am majestic and beautiful.
What does that have to do with it?
No. He's got a point.
I also work out a lot, so I have epic muscles, see? So I'm very masculine. And fourth of all, I have lots of books and I'm a booktuber, which means I'm well read. So all that to say that I'm educated, beautiful, masculine, and well read, and I think YA is cool.
Vindication!
Alright, that's all I had to say about that. Now, 2 quick announcements. First of all, I'm doing a monthly theme of YA January. I'm introducing YA books, and those are going to include Fourth Wing and Iron Flame, as well as Skyward, The Hunger Games, and The Lunar Chronicles. Second, the book guy has finally launched a Patreon, and I have Patreons now. It's the coolest thing. So you can send me a tip if you want to help me keep making videos like this one. My Patreon will include exclusive content like book reviews, updates on what I'm reading now, free art and wallpaper, and eventually exclusive short stories and advanced chapters for the books that I'm writing that are coming out this year. Check it out. There are more details on the page on what goodies are included. And thank you to my new Patreons who have signed up in the last 24 hours. I have Patreons now. I'm gonna cry. Well, thank you for watching. I'm the Book Guy, and I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye.